When discussing Caitlin Clark in her rookie season, it's becoming increasingly more obvious the WNBA isn't ready for a player of her caliber, the eyeballs she brings, and the superstardom potential that she possesses. As really since day one, they've screwed this thing up over and over and over again. As looking at the media narratives, a lot of the media talking heads, they've knocked Clark at really every single turn. As early on, what were the narratives? She might be a good player, not a great player right away. Well, that was proven wrong, already a great player. Next up, not the rookie of the year. Well, beat Angel Reese 3 games out of 4, secured that fairly easily, and now where does that leave us? Caitlin Clark being the MVP or first team All-WNBA.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm!
Now, sticking with the WNBA media recently, they gave their top 5 players in this year's MVP race. And of course, who was shortchanged? None other than Caitlin Clark. As in this list, they had her ranked 6th as an honorable mention. Now the players in front of her, A'ja Wilson, I'm fine with that. Napheesa Collier, also fine with that. Sabrina Ionescu, at suspect. Breanna Stewart, you can make a case. And Alyssa Thomas, I really don't understand. Those top 2 picks, Wilson and Collier, I'm fine with. Those are great players, having great seasons. Beneath that, very suspect list. And for someone like Alyssa Thomas to be top 5, I just don't see it. I've watched her games versus the Fever, I've watched her games on her own. This year, I don't see her as a top 5 candidate for the MVP. And looking at Clark, if you want to talk MVP, the most valuable player, I mean, Clark's turnaround for the Fever, it screams MVP, at least top 5. Now, wins, that is one thing. Another thing is individual play and production. And looking at Thomas, who last year was second MVP voting, this year is having a worse season across the board. Scoring only 5 points down, assists down, boards down, turnovers up, and steals also down. I mean, that right there for an MVP player is a marginal dip across the board. If you want to talk pure stat numbers, Caitlin Clark all year long, especially post the break, has been a far superior player. As looking at Thomas post the break, her overall playing production has kind of been pathetic. 8.8 points, 8.3 assists, 8.0 boards on 46% shooting. Caitlin Clark, 24.7 points, 9 assists, 5 boards on 46% shooting. I mean, Thomas has like nice numbers, Ben Simmons type numbers. She's a good defensive player, facilitator, a solid player. MVP player? Not this year. And a very quick side note for someone like Thomas, in terms of spacing on the floor, this lady does not shoot threes, does not make threes. Caitlin Clark from 28 feet to 35 feet is a threat every single night. Come playoff time, the spacing she provides is much more valuable than someone like Thomas. Now, like I said earlier, Thomas last year had a great overall season, and actually had the record for most assists in a single year in WNBA history. Now here's the funny thing, Caitlin Clark this year is going to break that record.
Too much money on this game.
And like I said earlier in the video, the goalposts for Clark have moved every single time, as even someone like Thomas early on this season doubted Clark from day one. I mean, look at this tweet. The idea Clark as a rookie could be a leader in assists, she was laughed at by Swoops and Thomas. Well, of course, Clark went above and beyond that, not only being the league leader, but eventually breaking the record for assists in a single season, which of course, nobody thought was possible for a rookie. Now, looking back at the MVP rankings, Breanna Stewart being 4, not that upset by. Stewart's a former MVP, actually the reigning MVP, and a phenomenal player, eventual Hall of Famer. And the odd thing for Stewart, the best player on her team, one of the best players in the league, she ranks 4th behind her own teammate, Sabrina Ionescu. And let's make this very, very clear. Sabrina isn't just a nice player, she's a great player, all-star player, and most likely will be second team all-league. She's a great player. But compared to Caitlin Clark, what's the only difference in these players? Sabrina plays on a much better team with a former MVP. Speaking from personal experience debating NBA basketball, when you have two top 10 players on one team in the MVP race, most times they kind of cancel each other out because the team in that duo is just so great in themselves. In this case, Sabrina and Stewart, I think, kind of do that for the 2024 season. If Sabrina plays bad, has an off night, as a team, they still win more times than not. At looking at the stats, when Sabrina scores under 19 points, the team is 13-3. Clark, in the same scenario, her team is 7-9. What does that show you? Caitlin Clark's impact on winning her individual play has a much more impact on the team winning than someone like Sabrina. Now, looking past the MVP for Clark, she's not going to win it this season. Next year, could very easily do it. This year, I don't see it happening. Too late. A'ja Wilson's playing too fantastic. But one thing that she might accomplish, I think she should accomplish, is first team All-League. And looking at ESPN, once again, snubbing Clark of first team All-WNBA. And looking at the list, A'ja Wilson, Nafisa Collier, Brianna Stewart, Thomas, and Sabrina. The exact same list verbatim as the MVP rankings. And like I said previously, Wilson, Collier, even Stewart, they are locks to be first team All-League. The two questionable picks are Thomas and Sabrina. And let's make one thing very clear. To make first team or second team is heavily dependent on your individual play and production. Team record winning, not a major factor historically for these teams. So comparing Clark versus Sabrina, Clark, more points per game, more assists, boards, steals, blocks, she's better from the field, 3, as well as the line. If you want to talk pure stats, production, raw numbers, just even the eye test, Caitlin Clark is first team All-League over Sabrina. Again, Sabrina is a great player, but Clark as a rookie is doing things nobody's ever seen. Caitlin Clark's stats this season for a player in general, not just a rookie, are otherworldly. And you could go on for days and days and days looking at the assist stat, the scoring stats, first to this, fewest games to that. I mean, Clark's resume already is lengthy and apparent to anyone, even a basketball novice. And the final comparison to Alyssa Thomas, which once again baffles me, Thomas this year has taken a step back in virtually all respects. And compared to Clark, Charles on points per game, assists, blocks, 3 percentage, and free throw percentage. Clark on the overall numbers destroys Thomas. And eye test wise, Thomas is kind of the female Ben Simmons. Caitlin Clark, the female Luka Doncic, Steph Curry hybrid. I mean, one of these players is an offensive virtuoso. The other one, kind of a two-way player, makes layups, scores in the paint, has no outside game. If you're talking overall game, their play styles, Alyssa Thomas, not nearly as impactful as Caitlin Clark, especially in the offensive end. The only case Thomas has over Clark is her team record. And like I said earlier, for first team All-League, second team All-League, team record really doesn't matter. As looking at the past decade, out of the 17 players who had that honor, 6 of them won below 500 teams. So that right there is the end of the video, and I think based off recent precedent, Caitlin Clark's overall play, I would say at worst, top 3 in MVP voting, and a lock for first team All-WNBA. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.